Alright guys, so we're sitting with 6 different tank specs now. We've got Vengeance, we've got Blood, we've got the Brewmaster, we've got the Guardian Druid, we've got Protection Pally and Protection Warrior. But which is better? I'm going to put these in order from my experience, starting from worst to best, depending not only on survivability, but playstyle and how fun it really is in the Legion Alpha currently on playing. Starting with number 6, the Brewmaster Monk. Okay, it's an okay tank, but the hit points are still really low for a tank, guys. The extra damage it made this monk that it could do, that made this spec awesome, is now gone. It's not there, and it sucks. And its mitigation, basically through its the stagger. The stagger was awesome. When your mastery was there and you could stack that and increase it, it was great. It was good. You could end up taking that extra damage and completely wipe it off. The only way you can do that now is through Iron Skin Brew. You can increase it up, take a huge hit, and then wipe it off with Purifying Brew. Still a good gameplay. But the problem is the new mastery. The new mastery causes it to where whenever you end up getting hit by an attack, it increases your percent chance to dodge by a percentage. And then if you get hit again, it doubles that effect until you dodge an attack. The problem with this is RNG, for one. The other is why. I mean, you're going to get to a certain point on mastery, and this is going to be completely useless because you're going to get hit twice and then you're going to dodge once. Get hit twice and then get dodged once. Even at the lowest item level, I noticed this already, and it sucks. The mastery blows huge dick. Pardon me on that one, guys, but it just does. It's horrible. You do have... basically, with the stagger being capped, guys, as progression goes, this tank is going to just get worse unless they do something. And also with their little healing ox orbs, these things, if you're not, again, Legion Alpha testing, if you're not standing right on top of this damn orb, you will not get the heal. Sucks. This royally sucks. They did come out and say that they were overtuned at the beginning, but that is a total lie. I think they were trolling us, and everybody went to go roll one and realize, what the hell did I fucking get myself into? This currently was a super stressful class to end up playing, with a very small arsenal of cooldowns. It's got a lot of the same ones that it used to, with minor changes, but it's very small. I think there's only like 2 major cooldowns, and one of them being that stupid channeled one, to where if you get hit by a melee ability, it breaks anyways. They need to do something to fix that. So that's why this tank took last place. I did not enjoy running on the Brewmaster as much as I used to. I mean, currently in live, I can jump on a Brewmaster and I can enjoy it. It's fun. But right now, it's not there, guys. It's really a sad state. Coming in at number 5, we've got the Guardian Druid. The spec has some really good survivability and can push some major hit points. That's always nice, being able to take bigger hits and not worrying about that much of a percentage drop. Everything is considered active mitigation on the cooldown side right now. I don't know if that's just a tooltip bug, but everything is, from bark skin to your 2 actual active mitigations to any cooldown that you really have right now is all considered active mitigation. I think it might just be a tooltip bug. Nothing big on that one. The main 2 that you do have, though, for your active mitigation, one of them's either going to increase your armor by 100%, or you can stack it and do 200%. Kind of neat. It's got a cooldown time, and it also costs 40 rage to cast. And then the other one is going to reduce magic damage by 30%, so you get a good little gameplay changer there. As you start learning the fights, you're going to know which button to hit through muscle memory. It can end up progressing into something really nice. It's a very controversial yet exciting gameplay that you can get from this spec. The bad part about it, though, is the rage generation blows. You only get rage generation whenever you cast your Thrash or whenever you cast Mangle, unless you have a talent somewhere in there that there's one that builds rage, I believe, off of the Thrash, the dot on there, and it's a way of how you want to end up playing it, and it's not a lot either. It's like 2 rage per stack, and it ticks every 3 seconds, I believe. It's not that great, guys. But the rage regeneration really blows. Maul is useless. It's a single target ability. It costs like 20 rage to end up using this thing, and it doesn't hit at all. They might as well just take that ability and throw it in the fucking trash can, because it's that bad. I really don't think anyone's using it right now in live. Your main spam ability is swipe. Swipe is your new spam ability. It's great for picking up AoE, but it's useless. It's honestly useless single target. It doesn't build rage. It doesn't do anything. It just swipes. You do very minor damage to you, and if adds on top of you, which most of these fights, doing some raid testing earlier, and it was like Bethelak 2.0, this new Druid chick. She basically has the same spider model as Bethelak. She drops ads. If you are spamming this button, you pick up those ads, she does an increased amount of damage for each ad that's around. You're gonna fuck yourself in this situation, and it's a horrible, horrible experience. So I see that being a bad idea also. And it's extremely boring. Most mechanics work good, but the self-sustain is very low currently due to the change of the self-heal. I believe it's Frenzied Regeneration is the name of the ability, and it only does 40% of the damage taken in like the last 5 seconds. So you take a big hit, you hit this, and you barely end up doing anything, and it's over a period of time. It's over like 15 seconds or something. It's stupid. There is no self-sustain in there whatsoever. They're basically making the bear to where they're a hit point and armor tank only, and that's it. And that's not working at these item levels. Maybe later on in progression this might end up picking up, but right now it fucking sucks. The battle res also, guys, the thing that was always nice, it is still instant. It doesn't take you out of bear form, but it costs like 60 fucking rage. So you've got to take that point, you're getting your face pummeled in, you can waste that 60 rage to get that asshole off the ground that stood in something, or you can end up letting yourself die whenever you cost that 60 rage because you can't use any of your other mitigations whatsoever, and next thing you know, boom, dead, gone. Alright, because everything costs rage, but you only have 2 main rage builders. It does really well tanking though, guys, but it needs some major tweaking before it moves up on the list. And with that, we'll go into number 4, Protection Warriors. Ignore pain. That is all I have to say. That's enough said. It's a huge, huge pro over what Protection Warriors used to have. It's kind of like Shield Barrier, how it worked. Except this is basically what it does is it takes a chunk of your health. I'm not exactly sure how much of it takes, but it takes a chunk of it and reduces the damage out of that by 90%. It's a huge shield mechanic. It's basically like having a disc priest go, boop, here's a shield. And as long as you got the rage, you can spam this thing and you can stack it. It is amazing, but it only lasts for 10 seconds, so it's better to use it just before you take a huge hit. It's an insane damage reducer, and it costs 40 rage to end up using it. The rage gen on the Prot Warrior feels absolutely great. You can actually build up rage, you can use this ability a lot, you can use your other abilities a lot. It's not perfect yet, but apparently with haste you're supposed to end up doing a bit better. So right now they are sitting at number 4, and the only reason for this is because of magic damage. When magic damage happens, your mastery still is only for the block and the critical block. Alright, your mastery is critical block still. So you are great against physical attacks, but when it comes to magic, you're going to get blistered unless you're really good at timing this ignore pain, because that is the only way you can actually reduce any of that magic damage. So basically, you've got ignore pain, which is one of your active mitigations. Your other one is still shield block, and shield block's awesome. Again, if you're going up against something that's just physical damage, that's fine, but most of these bosses that I've tested have a mix of physical damage, and then they have a huge hitting magical effect that is just going to fuck your world. And that kind of puts warriors at a real low damper. But again, ignore pain, huge pro. You're still getting the same basic cooldown, so where you can increase your health pool or just reduce damage all the way through and through. Threat felt really good, but in order for this class to progress, it will need another tank. Like in any progression, it will need another tank that can actually do something with magic damage, because this is not the tank for that currently, unless they scale ignore pain absolutely ridiculous. But that's going to be like having a discipline priest in your pocket with how big this shield is that it's putting on. But guys, it's looking good, but it is still only number 4, and that'll make us move on to number 3, the Protection Pally. Prop Pallies and their infinite cooldowns. You have one for everything, basically, and with Mastery working not only for overall the damage reduction to everything through Shield of the Righteous, so timing this thing is still important, guys, for your big hits, but it does huge damage reduction. It also helps with this new self-heal that you end up getting. This self-heal is worthless, and this is one of the reasons why it is in the number 3 spot. They are very well self-sustained, and with some gear, it'll be a button mashing badass because of all the ways you can reduce cooldowns on like your Avenging Shield and your Shield of the Righteous. You'll be doing really, really goddamn good when you start getting a little bit more, I'm going to say, haste and crit involved in this. Mastery is going to be smoothing out the damage a bit. But I really see, because I believe Judgment has a way of reducing the cooldown or restarting or refreshing, something about that with Shield of the Righteousness. I can't remember 100%, guys, but it's looking really nice. Where they could end up going with this one is fixing this self-heal. Now, the self-heal, basically, it does a percentage heal based on how low your health is. So it's kind of got to tie into the Shaman Mastery, but it only does like 40% of how much health is lost, or some odd percentage number. So the lower you are, the more this thing heals. The problem with that is, in most raid situations, if you're that low and you go to hit this thing, more than likely you've got another blast that's coming right behind it that's going to mess up your world. It's on a 15-second cooldown, and it doesn't seem that great. It seems more like a possible PvP, haha, gotcha kind of scenario, and that's it. But in actual raiding, I don't see this thing being too awful useful. You can't keep yourself topped off. You can't end up really helping yourself, and with the way tanks are getting spanked on some of these, again, it's Legion, it's Alpha, it's raid testing, and they call it testing for a reason because they need a balance of stuff. It's just something to remember, but these guys will be a button-mashing badass whenever they start getting some haste to them. Haste looks like it's going to be really strong for them yet again. Again, that heal, if it were to be corrected, it'd be awesome. But if that big hit that ends up taking you down anyways, if you're playing your Paladin correctly, you're going to mitigate that damage correctly also. So that basically does like a wax and wane situation on this heal. If you mitigate it and it only takes you down to half health instead of 25% health, and then you hit this heal, you're not getting that much of a healing out of it. You know, you're only going to go up so much, as to where if that thing took you down to like 10, 20%, you know, because you played your class like an idiot, then you'll be able to use it and get the full effect out of it. It's not the way it's supposed to be played, and it seems more like something that might end up helping you out if you fuck up and you just don't know how to play this spec. So I can't stress it enough. If they fix the heal to where it actually does something worthwhile, then it might be okay. But right now, it's a worthless piece of crap. And again, guys, it works good. But once the heal is fixed, or maybe even moderately changed, they'll be doing perfect. They'll be just fine. But right now, I cannot stress it enough. For that being their second mitigation kind of deal, healing themselves, it's worthless. It's absolutely worthless because it doesn't work. I even found myself having to stop and use a regular heal in open world for this. So, let's see. Coming up on number 2, we've got the Vengeance Demon Hunter. This spec is all around fun, guys. It's enjoyable. Blizzard did a damn good job with the new spec. I am impressed. Usually they have a tendency to make something really overpowered, or they have a tendency to make it just boring as shit. Death Knights. When they first came out, I thought they were the most boring thing on the fucking planet. Monks came out way too damn strong, and then they got nerfed into the fucking ground. So just everything they end up going with it. Death Knights kind of did the same thing too. They came out too strong. You know, they could either tank or DPS in all 3 of the specs, and it was absolutely insane when they came out. Because you'd have unholy tanks, and then you'd have frost tanks, which frost tanking was actually pretty damn good. But again, it's one of those things to where they feels like they got this thing right. They got the cooldown management right. Basically with this, you have just the right amount of cooldowns. Your active mitigation works well alongside your soul cleave and orb healing mitigation. Basically, this has got the healing side of it just right, to where you can actually get yourself top back off if you need to. You've got the damage reduction through your demon spikes to where you increase your parry, to where you're completely reducing some damage there, and you're also reducing the damage by whatever your mastery's set at. This works out great. And then you've got your soul cleave and your orb healing in case you do take a couple really good hits and it brings you down, and you've got those orbs pooled up. You just end up hitting soul cleave and suck all that healing in, and boom, you're back up to the top and ready to go. Awesomely fun, guys, and it's also a very mobile spec. Now, the other specs, they do have their mobility set up. I forgot to mention Protection Paladins with their Crusader pony thing that only seems to work in some situations. Not every single one currently, but again, Legion Alpha. And then you've got Warriors to where they still have charge. Bears, if you spec into it, have charge. So there is mobility in the others. But this one here not only is able to hop around, but you can spec into an ability called Fell Rush. And this is like a little short distance charge to end up picking up adds. You can also spec into another deal where you set your fire glyph down and it'll end up making you jump over there. Lots of different ways to spec this thing. Lots of different ways to have fun with it. Very enjoyable class, guys. The only thing I would like to end up putting on number one, but it's really, really good on every aspect. Threat, it's fun. It's got a lot of self-sustainability. The threat is never an issue unless there's a hunter pet. That's the only time I've ever had any threat issues, was when anytime I run with a hunter now, it's like they don't know how to right-click that little button and turn off the taunt. But other than that, perfectly good. I just let the pet die and then I continue doing what I need to do. But it still can't beat the sustain of number one, the Blood Death Knight. That's right, it's number one. I've never been a fan of the Death Knight period. Never. No matter what spec, the furthest I've gotten one, I've mentioned this in other videos, the furthest I ever got one was 85 when that was the cap. And there's a good reason for it. They just bored the shit out of me, guys. There is no fun to them. They were like 3-button, 4-button wonders at tops, and they did great. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people enjoyed that play, but I was bored to tears with it. Blood Death Knight in the past, you'd end up, all you do is build up your runic power, and then you death strike, and then you'd never take any more damage after that, after you had your mastery. That being said, when they added in the Morrowind Bone Shield mechanic, it really made the spec different. And a lot of people may disagree with me on this, but being able to go and know where you want to put do you want to build more runic power through your Blood Strike or Heart Strike, depending on what you're spec'd into, or do you want to put it into, put your runes into Morrowind and build up Bone Shield charges, which if spec'd, it can give you rune regeneration, and it also gives you your Bone Shield, which reduces the incoming damage to you all the way through and through. This kind of gets rid of that spikiness that they've got live, to where you see them take a bunch of damage and then all of a sudden they're back at the top of the meter, and if you're healing them, you're over healing because they just healed themselves for everything and put a shield on top of it. Their mastery is still the shield. It's not as good as it used to be, guys. It is a little bit on the weaker side, but again, I am running all 680 item level tanks, so they do end up balancing it a bit when you go into the higher dungeons, but it's not that much different. I don't have a lot of mastery, so that may have a lot to do with it too. But back to it, the Morrowind Bone Shield mechanic, I've noticed a lot to where I will keep this thing up. I do have it spec'd where it does rune regeneration, and then I'll watch it. When it gets back, I'll stack it almost all the way up, and kind of heal myself up if I need to. And then when it gets down to 3, I'll go back into that play. But until then, I'll keep my health up with Death Strike, I'll keep my runic power up, and then I'll also end up, keeping that shield up very minimally, and it just outbeats the competition completely. if you get down to it, if you're in a rough situation, the cooldown management is insane. You can go forever without heals. I'm showing you this right now. There's no issue whatsoever with this spec except for the fact that it may be overpowered. Because when a tank doesn't need a fucking healer, the game is broken. But at the same time, I have to rank it number 1 because this goddamn tank doesn't need a healer. Look at this. Are they broken? Maybe. Are they fun? Fuck yeah. And the only downfall to him currently is the damage is a tad low. I did have some issues with threat in a couple dungeons I did. Never single target, only with ads, and that's because I believe a lot of it was due to the fact that I was a lower level in a low level dungeon with like level 107, 108 people that were in there with a bunch more artifact power than what I had. So that might have been the scale difference, but because they don't scale you down, they only scale you up. And I think that might have been a lot of the big issue on the threat. But the damage was a little low. And the artifact weapon has many damage increasing traits to go along with it, so that's going to help there. It's artifact weapon ability, guys. The bigger the group you have, if you're surviving through it, if you get low down on health, you can use this thing, and every single one of them is going to heal you for like a quarter of your health. So you can literally keep healing up through. You've got talents that allow you to end up just leech, they attack you, you end up healing back up. It's absolutely ridiculous on how much healing this spec will do, and that's why it got number 1. And they aren't boring to play at all. You've got a good wax and wane. You've got a little bit to end up watching here or there. It's not all about cooldown management, but you're actually watching your buffs here, guys, not just your health and when you're going to hit Death Strike. You've got a little more to play with. So there you have it, guys. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I will gladly answer them. And again, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed yourselves.